Welcome to the STLI podcast. I'm Grace.
I'm Peter.
Peter doesn't have headphones
Only
today.
one of us has headphones today, and you guys should guess.
And today we are doing a segment on student partners, and we are here with Dr. Mark Hofer?
Hofer.
Hofer, okay. And today we are here with Dr. Mark Hofer.
We are professionals.
We are professionals. Yes, especially, I'm the more professional one because I have the headphones.
Yes, but I know how to pronounce especially.
Okay. Anyways.
Well, thank you. We're turning the tables. Peter, I have usurped your microphone and headphones so that I could ask some questions to get to the heart of the matter, to get to the essence, the ethos of the Student Partner Program. Are you ready?
I mean, I don't have headphones, but I'll do my best.
So you guys know this is a bit of an experiment, this whole program. You know, we launched last year during COVID just to kind of support faculty doing remote and online. And this year we shifted to kind of a little bit more broad kind of program for different ways that you guys can contribute. So what led you to want to be involved?
Actually, I was working with one of our faculty partners, Joan Gavaler, on a dance piece. And Roy reached out to me and said, hey, I think what you're doing here is really cool. Would you like to do this more frequently with a bunch of students? We partner with faculty, and you could be doing this where you're making media. We're kind of meeting with faculty. We are creating meaningful projects and pieces, and it's kind of this collaboration in which you can use your skills, they can use theirs, and we're kind of coming together in a way that students and faculty haven't traditionally done so before. And so I was definitely intrigued, and I said yes. Also, we got paid, which,
Always nice.
As a student, that's very nice. And so I joined last year at the beginning of the spring semester. And I've had a blast ever since. And it's definitely changed, and it's morphed, and it's evolved into, kind of defining more of what STLI is exactly. But along the way, there's always been such an emphasis on the relationship between students and faculty and that partnership, and having creativity, innovation, and how we can kind of better education, how we can use media and technology in those situations. And for me, that's been really enriching and rewarding.
Yeah, and for me, I just don't have money and wanted some.
You got recruited, didn't you?
Yeah,
By me.
That's what I thought,
Grace
yeah.
acted as a bit of a scout, knowing that both of us, we were working together on an unaffiliated, long, bigger scale media project at the end of last year, and through working on that, Grace had made a lot of comparisons to work she had done for STLI, and my main thing was that we were doing all of the work for this other project unpaid out of the kindness of our hearts, and that's what made me realize that I am working too hard on this to be getting very little in return for it. So I think that's what initially kind of drew me over to this space, and then the rest of it was really a lot of the most rewarding classes I've taken are ones where the professors are very open to listening to student feedback and student ideas as to the best way to kind of conduct the class. So being in an environment that kind of specifically fosters that sort of relationship stuck out to me a lot, and I think it's definitely been nice getting a lot of different perspectives, hearing different people's thoughts, because not every student has the same opinions on a classroom setting or how much or how little involvement or investment people should have in it. So I think that was definitely an interesting grab. And then, here we are now, and we are now about 6 or 7 weeks into a podcast that has gradually devolved into Grace insulting me for a half hour. So, no regrets, I guess.
No, that's great. I mean, so definitely the podcast has been a big area of involvement. It's the media production work. Is there anything that you haven't yet gotten a chance to do that you really would like to do, a contribution you'd like to make? Because I think that's one of the things that we've learned this year is there are so many different ways you all can plug into what we do in STLI and partner with faculty. What opportunities do you see out there that you'd like to take advantage of, be involved with?
Yeah, I think for me, and what's exciting is I do see the potential for this, and I see the possibility within the next semester, even of plugging in kind of in the community at large and kind of looking beyond just this immediate, smaller sphere of just William and Mary, or just even just the classes and just the faculty and just, specifically education, and looking into the community and seeing how STLI can have a greater impact on the community of Williamsburg, the community of William and Mary, the alumni, and kind of just the legacy and the history that's here. I'm really excited for the projects that are coming up with the Bray School Lab and the excavations that are going to be there with the First Baptist Church as well. And I think that there's a lot of potential that we as student partners can use our skills in technology and media production to kind of help tell these stories and to kind of show the ways that education, innovation have an impact on the community, and how, all these stories, all these histories, we're all connected. And I think that, in uncovering these and in using media to share these stories in a way that's like fun and engaging is going to be so cool. And so I'm really excited for that. And that's something I'm really hoping to be able to do.
I love that idea too, because it kind of blurs the boundaries between the university and the community and history and media. And, you can think about some of those areas of intersection and taking students out into the community, to focus on community-based research, bring the community into William and Mary, and love that idea. And it's interesting because you all have those perspectives that you can maybe see some of those connections maybe before some of us who are in positions to kind of make those happen, to see those opportunities, those different kind of innovative approaches. So it's very, very cool. Peter, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just, I'm interested to see how, like, in the next few years, people, namely like professors, will kind of work with innovation and technology in that setting. Because we're kind of coming out of a period of time in which we were kind of forced to do a hard shift into like solely like digital classroom settings, because like a lot of classes for probably about 2 semesters straight were, almost every class was taught through Zoom. And that's definitely like the main extreme of like using technology in the classroom. And now I think we're in a period where some professors want to overcorrect of like, now that they're back in like a classroom setting, they don't want kind of any like online component. They don't want any like technological like presence in the classroom. So I think I'm interested to see in the next few semesters how we kind of find that middle ground of like not over relying on like traditional methods or like modern tech, but figuring out like the right balance of using both in a way that is going to create the most like fulfilling experience for everyone involved, and just figuring out kind of what form that takes, whether that's like using like Zoom for certain types of classes, like if someone is doing a presentation so they can make it fill the whole screen, or like just using it for just like the chat setting if you're showing a movie in class or something, which is what one of my professors has done.
Yeah, that's a great example of like how it can be additive. It's like it doesn't necessarily detract from what you're doing, but it kind of adds some component, some level of interaction that might be difficult or impossible otherwise. So that's a really cool idea. Have you, like, what are some of those things, just while we're on this branch here, what are some things that you would hope would carry forward beyond the pandemic, beyond, I mean, I think we're sort of in that right now, but what are some, even as you look back and think about maybe, as you said, Peter, some people overcorrected maybe, like what are some things you'd like to see come back into enriching your experience?
I feel as though like something that I've realized kind of like over the last few semesters is that even if classes are happening in like an in-person setting, in a classroom setting, there's no reason that they can't be like recorded or documented in a way that like makes them more accessible. Because I think something that I would feel like my freshman fall, like the beginning of my freshman spring before everything had to be online, is that if you were sick or if you had to miss class or you were in a situation where you couldn't physically be present, then you were just kind of out of luck. Like there were some professors who wouldn't even like put like the PowerPoint slides on Blackboard. Like it's just a matter of like, if you missed class, too bad, figure yourself out. Whereas I think now we're in a situation in which, like, if the professor is sick, they're not just like, class is canceled. They'd be like, okay, if you guys are able to do this, join this Zoom call, we can still do it like this. Or like, if I'm like in the next few weeks, I am like leaving early for Thanksgiving, so I'll be physically like off campus. But in one of my classes, I have to like talk about a given reading, and my professor's already been like, yeah, we can just have you Zoom into the class, give your like spiel, and then that'll be fine. So just making it easier for people to be involved, even if they can't physically be present, is very important, especially now because like it's not in anyone's control if they get sick or get COVID, and it'd be irresponsible to have them kind of go to class in spite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think accessibility is a huge thing that technology is able to help us with moving forward and should definitely be utilized. I think something else that has come out of this that I hope will continue as we move forward is the kind of inclusion of technology in our assignments. I felt like that's something for me that was really enriching during the pandemic, and even kind of post-pandemic, has been assignments that allow students to use, whether it be video as a medium or visual mediums, whatever that may be, instead of just having your traditional, I'm going to write a paper and turn that in. Having professors say, you know, as an alternative assignment, how about you create some visual art and upload it to Blackboard, or make a video, documentary, or do something creative, and kind of allowing students to use various forms of media that, you know, we're very comfortable with to create something different and new for an assignment. In fact, a class that Peter and I are in, we just had an assignment where in lieu of a class, we had to create a visual representation of a poem that we had to read. And our classmates all created some really cool things, and it was really fun to like see those in class. And I think that's something that moving forward, I hope continues, you know, this kind of creativity and the approach to the type of assignments that are possible, and, you know, the kinds of ways that we can complete this work, as opposed to just the traditional paper and quizzes of the past.
Yeah, so a lot more self-directed learning and kind of more options and more avenues to explore. And that's actually one of the goals I hope for the Student Partner Program is, like, as you identify interests that you would want to learn more about something. You know, we've seen some students that have been more interested in kind of learning about pedagogy and some of the theory behind what we're doing. People, you know, they're doing readings on that. Others are interested in more of an inclusive sense of belonging in the classroom. And how do you do that? So other students are kind of doing some reading and doing some synthesizing there. Can you think of any examples that you have, like, in your connection with STLI, that you've kind of been more self-directed in learning something new that is valuable to you as a person, and also, you know, maybe potentially to STLI into the program?
Yeah, I know for me, everyone who knows me knows that I love media and I love media production. And I know for myself, I've done a lot of like kind of self-directive learning in terms of, you know, learning the Adobe programs. Mm-hmm. When I first came to STLI, I guess almost a year ago, I had never used Premiere Pro. I had never used After Effects. I had never used Lightroom, any of the Adobe suites. And so that was something that I was able to kind of self-teach and watch tutorials on, come to others, collaborate with other students. And I feel like I'm fairly proficient now in them. And I've used them for several projects to create media through STLI, for STLI. And that's something that, you know, kind of coming away from, like, I'm very proud of, and it's there's such a feeling of accomplishment, you know, when you have that curiosity and that interest in learning, and, you know, you are encouraged to follow that, and you get to see like a tangible kind of, you know, palpable like project come from that, and know that, you know, you wanted to learn that, you went out and were encouraged and given the tools to learn that, and then you came back with something to show that you had learned that and mastered those skills. So I definitely appreciate that kind of self-directive learning approach that STLI definitely encourages.
That's great.
Yeah, and for me, I was also like, I do a lot with Photoshop and Premiere, and a lot of that actually, like, I was part of a media studio when I was in high school. Like, there was an elective class was basically like a media studio that would be in charge of like morning announcements, making like content, that sort of thing. And that was like my first exposure to like a lot of the Adobe suite. But even that was like very kind of boilerplate stuff. And it was really during lockdown, because during, I think, those few months from like, I want to say it was like April to like September, Adobe was like, if you have a student ID, if you have a student email connected to a university, we'll give you like free access to all of these products. And I think that was something that was really helpful to me, because having that like chance to just kind of like on my own time without the concern of like, oh, I only have like 7 days of this trial, I only have like a certain amount of time before I'm charged like this obscene amount of money. I was able to just kind of mess around with it and kind of figure out what I could do with both of these programs. And that's something that I wish, like with like how William and Mary is, of like there seems to be like not like a barrier to access of it, but like it seems as though like not everybody has the same ability to access like these like programs and these like applications to figure out how to use them. And that's definitely the snag with introducing assignments that utilize them in the classroom, because just not everybody has the time or like the means to, you know, access all of these like premium like applications or premium like programs to like use them to the best of their ability. So I think that's something that I'm really grateful I had the chance to do, and it's something I just wish that more people had kind of like a general access to.
Yeah, and that goes back to your point, Grace, about more media-rich projects, at least as options, because, you know, there are places that, like the Reader Media Studio, you know, where they have, you know, computers that you can check out, but also the studio spaces that you can work in. But I hear you, Peter, that like to make that more accessible and more available would be a catalyst to more of that kind of work. So I love that. And hopefully our student partners can then help work with the students in those courses that do need a mentor or somebody to kind of help them get started, because not everybody maybe would have the confidence to jump in and learn it on their own. They might need somebody to learn, you know, kind of help them get started. So love this. Well, let's wrap up with just one question. If you could sort of wave your magic wand, where would you, like ideally in, you know, 2 or 3 years, where would you like to see this program go? Like a new area, some kind of accomplishment, some kind of new project or program. What would you like to see?
I mean, I think the goal just, I mean, as it is now and as it probably will be in a few years, is just general awareness of like that we exist and what we can do. Because, I mean, obviously we have our space in the basement of SWEM, but I think it's something where unless like people are actively told about it, I feel like not many people, at least from the student side of it, are aware that like this is like a space that also serves to help them. So I think that's something of like, I would hope that in like 2 years, 3 years, there's more awareness of like who we are and what we do, to the point where it's like, I mean, there are meetings that happen in here with like faculty, but I'm sure there's also possible that the flip side will happen where it's like we lead a workshop on a certain thing that invites students to come and like watch it and stuff. So I think just like gaining more of a presence is something that I think can only benefit us, and that's obviously kind of what we aim to do with things like the podcast and things like our like longer running projects.
Yeah, great, love it.
Yeah, I think for me, all of what Peter said, but also really kind of hammering home that, you know, students and teachers coming together. And I feel like we've really started strongly in that. And I hope in the next few years that we will just see that even more. You know, I think that the student partner and faculty relationships that we already have are super special and unique. And I think that there's so much richness that has come from them, so much collaboration, you know, so much art, so much academia. It's incredible. And I think that, you know, a lot of universities don't understand the potential that can come from these partnerships. And so I think for me, I really hope that within the next few years, we have more student partners paired with faculty, that, you know, there is more open communication, that there is, you know, less of a stigma and less of kind of a divide between the teacher and the student. And that, it's more of a collaboration in terms of education. And I think that that's really just going to open us up to a lot more possibilities.
I love that. Hopefully we could be a model for other universities in this area. And honestly, the podcast is a great way to get that word out and to hear from you and from your experiences and what you're doing and how you're working with faculty along with their perspective, I think is super valuable. So thank you for whatever, everything you do with the podcast. It's really awesome.